Good evening, everyone. My name is Lisa Simmons, and I'm the program manager for the community initiative here at the Mass Cultural Council. I'm coming to you from the original homelands of the Wampanoag, Nipmuc, and Massachusetts tribal nations, and we are honoring the space and thanking the Native tribes for allowing us to inhabit this land. I am an African-American woman, and I have brown hair, brown eyes, and we are all happy to see you here at this webinar on the annual report. Just 2 days ago, we had a webinar on guidelines, and before that, a webinar on the new grant system. Just let you know that all of these are available on our YouTube site. So please make sure that you have if you didn't get the opportunity to see those webinars, that you can catch them there, and you can share them also with your other council members. So we're here today with Mina Kim, who's a program officer for the Mass Cultural Council for the communities team, as well as Luis Cotto, who is the program manager for the Cultural District Initiative and also handles a few councils. And the community team also with Veronica Ramirez-Mattel, who is going to be leading this webinar tonight. We're really excited for her to be sharing with you all of the new information about the annual report, where you can find it on the new grant management system. And we're thankful to Veronica for all the work she has done on the new grant management system. So if you have any questions during this webinar, it would be great if you could put them in the Q&A section. That way we can organize them and get back to you as the webinar is going on, and then also have them for a Q&A session that we will have after this webinar is over. As you know, as Veronica stated, there are captions here for you, and you can just click on live transcript. And now I'm going to turn it over to Veronica. Veronica?
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. Some of you know me. My name is Veronica Ramirez-Martel. I support the Berkshires, North Central, and the Plymouth area. I am going to be sharing screen for the most part. I have a PowerPoint for you, so I'm going to turn my camera off very soon. If you do have questions, like Lisa said, please add them to the Q&A section so that we can keep track of them. Any question is a good question, even if it's been said before. We can support you if you let us know what you need, okay? So I'm going to start now with the screen sharing. If anyone needs to get a hold of me, I probably won't see it, but it'll be a short presentation. I'm going to turn off my camera. Great. So again, welcome. Today we're going to talk about the FY22 annual reporting updates. As you can see, one of the first updates is that now we're talking about annual reporting. I will talk a little bit more about that very soon. This is a beautiful photo from Women of Tyringham, an original oral history project that I visited not too long ago. It was a foggy day, but it ended up being very bright and sunny, which is beautiful. Right. The team, as Lisa mentioned, Lisa Simmons, Luis Cotto, Mina Kim, Timothy Pham, Ricardo Guillaume, and myself. So we have talked about this timeline before, but it's always good to refresh. So at this point, August 9th has passed, so councils can get into SmartSimple. Do remember that you are no longer logging in as a council, but you are logging in as yourself. So you will use the password, so you will use the email that you use as a council member. Coming up, the next deadline is August 31. That will be the last day to update priorities. That is the usual schedule for this time of year, and September 1st is when the grant cycle opens. During the month of September, you should be meeting with your municipal fiscal officer to complete the financial reporting, and we'll see what that looks like in a minute. And as usual, October 15 is when the grant cycle closes. The financial section is due and no longer our application accepted. Over here on the left, you see the old website, the purple return to toolkits. This is what the annual report has looked like for a while. I've only been here for almost 2 years, so I'm not sure what happened before that. But we'll be changing from this one page where everything happens in small tabs to each council member having their own landing page where they can see the reporting that needs to be done. So the annual reporting now consists of 3 main sections that you'll complete one at a time. So one will be available and you will focus on that one until the next one is available. So right now, the report that is available is update local guidelines and priorities right here. This is what it looks like. Thank you to those of you. There's been some councils. Last time I checked, there was 3 councils that already completed their guidelines and priorities report. So thank you so much. And the rest of you, as you go through it, if you have any questions, do reach out to your program officer and we will support you through this. Something that you also see is down here, it says LCC financial reporting and grant decisions. So when the financial reporting opens, you will see that where it says pending, there will be a 1, and that's how you will know that you can go in and start that report. We will talk more technical when that report is open. So for now, we're just doing an overview. To show you what the update priorities and guidelines looks like, I just want to stress 2 things. So the council profile page is information that you can update by going into your council profile elsewhere on the website, and you can update it at any point of the year. But please remember that your council priorities and your council guidelines, as you put them in this first part of your annual report, will be locked in until next year. So if there's any information that you want to put that you might want to be updating as the year goes on, make sure that you put it in your about page, like in your about section, rather than this part of the report. So come September 1st, that councils have put in this data in the grant management system, there will be a migration of this data, and councils will now have their own public page on the website. And that website is the massculturalcouncil.org website, which is our main website. Another part of this first submission is to say whether your council makes direct or reimbursement-based grants. And that's really exciting because come September 1st, we're going to have a very accurate count of how many of the councils are in this process. And this is something that we're really considering when we're doing these changes in the system, to think of what is information that is useful for applicants to see when they're looking at your council information and the such. And then the rest of it is a member list. As you can see, an example that looks very similar to what was before on the previous toolkit. And this section is due on August 31st. So September 1st, the financial reporting will open, and it is very, very similar to what you have grown accustomed to. So the LCC account form, as you can see on the left, has the same sort of breakdown as it did before. So the financial reporting now is going to be very similar to what used to be section 1 and 2. Section 1 was the account form. You can see it here. The biggest difference is that now there is a new box in the 3 category, which is interest income. Often it gets confused. And we want to make sure that when we're saying that LCCs are raising $500,000 in municipal revenue, that is really municipal revenue, and that it's not getting confused with other numbers. So this is going to help our advocacy, and this is going to help you as the council have more accurate information as well. Other than that, the other big difference that has come from a lot of feedback is that the municipal code is no longer the last box. So hopefully moving forward, that is not something that gets cut out of the print of the account form, and we save a lot of time by not having to go back and forth. So this is roughly what it looks like on the website. We'll talk about it more once we're there, but I want you to see that the content is the same. It's just going to be more streamlined and easier to fill in. Once you submit the final report on this website, you cannot reopen it. And this is similar to what has happened before that. If you close section 1, a staff contact, so your program officer needs to open it for you. So you have to be really mindful. And when you are submitting a report, you will get this pop-up that says, are you sure you want to proceed? And that is telling you that you are about to submit something and it's going to go out of your hands for the time being. So make sure that if you have any questions, let us know. We're here for you. I have been working with the rest of operations with this since it's begun. So I'm really excited to show you what this looks like come September. And like I said, we're here. Your program officers are really happy to help you. As we open up new parts of the grant cycle, we will be giving you this sort of webinars where we'll be showing you information. We will have videos. And if you need anything in particular, please let us know and reach out to us. And that is it for my presentation. Thank you so much. I try to keep it short and sweet. So I am seeing the chat now. Let me see. Oh, sorry. Yeah, so right, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I was going to say thanks, Veronica. We do have a few questions. So one is, what is the municipal code, if you wouldn't mind going over?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So every year, as part of the financial reporting, the fiscal officer for each town or city receives this form that they fill out. And one of the safety measures in place to ensure that this is happening with the appropriate people is that we send the fiscal officer a municipal code that is, I believe, 4 digits long, so that when you're entering it in your annual report, you enter that 4-digit number. So it is a number that you will receive from your fiscal officer.
And someone had a question around if there's any way to see the public LCC page before the website goes live.
That's also a great question. So right now, what is put in place is that if you try to look for a council, you are routed to a page to find what your cultural council is. I have been able to write some URLs directly, and I still see some council pages, which should not be happening. So it is possible that you might still see that, but in the meantime, the public page won't be there until September 1st because we don't have the information to populate it.
All right, and then there's a question here around whether or not this new system also rounds the amount like the old system, or if it lists the cents as well in the calculations.
Yes, the system will still round it out so that you're seeing whole numbers and you're not seeing, even if you enter like in the old system, you could enter decimals, but it would always show up as rounded numbers, as whole numbers.
And there was a question around whether or not the account forms went out this year to the fiscal officers. And as Lisa Simmons mentioned in the Q&A, they are being sent out tomorrow. So by tomorrow, your municipal fiscal officers will have the account form. Let's see. There's a question here. So any member can now fill out the account information.
So yeah. Oh, you want to answer that, Mina?
Actually, I was just gonna ask you.
Thank you. So yes, that is true. So right now, this is the way that it works is that any member that does want to have access within the system can do so by registering as you have already seen, and we can remind you. And that means that yes, all the users that are within the council have access to seeing the reports and to seeing the council profile and to changing it. And I would say that if you do have people within your council, ideally, this is a situation where you trust the individuals that you're working with and the information that they are inputting. By any measure, we have auditing capabilities, and that means that any changes that any user puts in to the system, it records what user did it and when. So hopefully that's not a worry, but we do have measures in place to ensure that the program is being used appropriately. Are there any other questions?
And people can feel free to raise their hand and we can bring you on to ask your question. I just want to make sure.
There is one in the chat from Tulika from Sharon. Are the fields in the form are restricted to treasurer? Are the fields in the form restricted to just the treasurer?
So no, all the members within the system can access. Once a report is available for the council to fill, all members can see that that report exists and is available.
So are all of these account information due at a certain time?
Yeah, so right now to think of where we are. So right now we're in the middle of August. So the next report that is due is the one we're currently working on to update guidelines and priorities. And that will close on August 31st. So September 1st, you will have access to the financial reporting, which is where you would fill in the account form. And then what used to be section 2, which starts talking about what has happened within the account during the current fiscal year. So that is the part where it would ask, what revenues have you had to current year to date and that sort of thing. But now we're getting into details, but it'll be, all the financial aspects will be in the next report that opens in September.
And there is someone who wanted clarification around the municipal revenue and interest, but as Veronica just mentioned, we are going to offer a recorded webinar on specifically the financial portions of the annual report. There's another, did you want to speak more to that, Veronica?
No, sorry, I was supporting you.
So the council priorities and council guidelines were put into the new system. They were put into the same box. Should they be split up?
Yes, so in the previous system, the toolkit that we are sunsetting right now, you only had one box where you could enter guidelines and priorities. So what we did for this system is that we separated them so that people can make sure that their priorities are focused and are talking about that, and that they have the space to say if there are any specific guidelines, such as you have to have, I don't know, a specific date, or it must be within the town, or it must be a town member, or something along those lines.
Right, there's another question about how some council members are not comfortable with the web page. Should everyone be logged in to view the pages?
So only one person needs to be accessing the page. You have the council, which counts as an organization, right? And within that organization, you have your council members. So as long as there's one member that is logging in and completing the reports and making sure that information is accurate, the other members do not have to go into the website if they don't want to. They have the option. We're expecting that probably the people that will be logging into this website will be chairs, treasurers, secretaries, or anyone that's supporting the council in a more technical way, because if you don't want to or don't feel comfortable, you do not need to get into the system. Another council member can update the information for you, or can, communicate with you if you want.
There are some hands raised. I
see that there's a question about municipal revenue and interest. So I just want to address that really quickly. So the reason that we separated income interest is that in the past, there was two categories, right? There was municipal revenue and then other/interest income. So the thing is that there's different ways that you can receive money as a council, and depending on how you receive the money, is what you can do with it, right? But also, depending on who you receive it from, it can be used as an advocacy tool. So one of the things that we wanted to do was to be able to say that the money or the amounts that we're seeing when you say municipal revenue is specifically when the municipality is giving the council a budget line or a municipal match or something of that nature where they're giving money on purpose, versus if we had it along with interest income, although interest income isn't a lot, if it's a council that has, I don't know, $400,000 in reserve, then that'll be like a few $100s or what have you. And you don't know if that money is on purpose or if it's interest income. So this is an attempt to be able to have cleaner data so that we can report better and advocate for the program. I don't know if that answers your question, Bob, but if not, we can keep talking about it. Yes, Mina. Yes.
Okay, I was asking if you wanted to do it. So we have folks with their hands raised. William Burton, would you like to ask your question? And Veronica, I don't have the controls. Yeah, there you go.
I don't know how to unmute people either. I don't think I have the controls.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
We can hear you, William.
My question is, we're planning to have a fundraiser like around October the 18th to raise money for the money we're going to be allocating, for 2022. But that's after the 15th deadline to say other revenue. So how do we get that money in to our financial reporting?
So that just means that that money will be reported during the next grant cycle. And that is one of the reasons that when you start the financial report, the account form, if you look at it, you're not even reporting on this fiscal year, you're reporting on the previous. And that is how we catch anything that happened after the annual report, but before the end of the fiscal year.
Okay.
There's also a question from Talika. Would you like to unmute yourself? Or you can feel free to put your question into the chat, but I just noticed you had the hands raised in the participants list. Okay, great.
Okay.
Sarah Lividini has a question, or has their hand raised.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. We are kind of a new group. I haven't been in charge, but I'm now going to be the chairman. And we're trying to get a survey in before we have to do our guidelines. The thing is, our survey won't be done until the 25th. So we have a really short window. How do we, I thought it was really important for us to have that information when we set up our priorities and guidelines, but our window is really small. Is there any way of extending that, or are we just going to have to cram it in as best we can?
Yeah, so I mean, I would say that preemptively, I would book a council meeting for immediately after so that you can have the meeting and put it together. And unfortunately, right now, it is a very, tight cycle, and this is a lot of changes, and that adds stress to things. But I would say that if you want to focus more on what you know already and then have that moving forward, be something that you edit in during the meeting, that might be a way to go. So to say that more clear is you can look at what you have already as your priorities, book the meeting for immediately after the survey. I hope that you're able to read through that and you don't have too many, although that's a good thing. But that way you already have a placeholder so that whatever stands out from the surveys that you did glean, then you can add that rather than say, oh, we only have a few days and now we have to come up with the priorities.
We were sort of planning on doing that. So
Great, yeah, it's a good compromise. It's the best you can
I
do.
just wondered if we could have a little wiggle room because people are going to be away on vacation and
Yeah,
it's going to be very tight, but we'll do the best.
yeah.
Thank you.
And then I think there was one more person, Judy McGrail. Do you still have a question?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Well, that was all the questions. It is 6:30. We were planning on having this be half an hour, so I think this is the perfect length. So I'm gonna say thank you to all of you for being here. This is being recorded. We will have this available for you to watch later and share with your councils. If you have any questions, do not hesitate to reach out to your program officer. Thank you so much for joining and have a great night.